Good morning. My name is Janie Sacco. I'm the Assistant Director for Spangler, Burton, and Barron Halls.
Hi, and I'm Heather Nicole Saladino. I'm the Assistant Director and I work in Parsons Hall.
So today we're going to talk to you a bit about room selection for 2018. We've made a few changes this year, so whether you're a first-year student who's going through the process for the first time or an upper-year student who's done the process a few times, make sure you follow along and go through this presentation so that way you're informed about our process.
The first thing to note is we put out a lot of advertising and some emails to kind of engage with you. We are not doing an in-person information session, so this will take place in part of it. The first thing you'll see around your floors is this poster here. It just has our quick and dirty reapplication deadline and the day that we're going to do live housing selection. You'll also see just posted as a giant infographic on your floors that will kind of explain the process a little bit more in depth, but will not go into it in the depth that the emails or listening to this presentation will. So we highly encourage you to continue and read some more and talk to your RAs.
So let's get into the application itself. So one of the things that we do for the housing applications, we make it all available online. What you're going to do is you're going to go to our housing website and we're going to show you how to do that. So when you go to the St. Martin's main page, it's going to take you to a main website. It's launching here, so just give it one moment. Okay, just move down here. When you get to the main page, what's the first thing you're going to do is you're going to head to our Student Life tab. Under that, you're going to find housing. And when you click on that, we have a whole section for forms. So this section is really great to know about because it's where we keep all of the forms available for students. So again, I click the menu. I'm now going to Student Life, selecting housing and dining. Okay, when you go to more in this section, you're going to be able to go to our forms tab. And then when you go through our forms tab, you see in alphabetical order here, we have all of our forms. The form that you want is our general housing application. It's really important you pick this application and not any of the other ones. So again, general housing application is what you're going to want to select. Click apply now. And that will take you to the application that we'll be using this year. It's really important that you use the correct application because if you don't, then you won't be able to get your priority number, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. It'll take you to the first page of our application and contract, and then we'll take you through a variety of pages through the contract. We recommend set aside about 10 to 15 minutes to complete this thoroughly. So again, please make sure you're setting aside that amount of time to do so. Okay. We also have the contract available on job form. This form should be completed no later than Tuesday, March 20th. That's the Tuesday after spring break, so you still have a little bit of time to complete that. Applications submitted after March 20th will forfeit their priority number. That means if you get your application late, you're not going to get a priority number, which is really essential for housing selection. And Heather Nichols can explain a little bit more about what that is in a later part of the presentation.
Awesome. So here are options available. You can again go to our website to access pictures of this and floor plans and things like that, and we'll go through the rates a little bit later as well. So in Parsons Hall, we have single suites available with a shared bath, and so that means 2 rooms that share a bath together. We do have private suites that are available, but they're not available for general room selection. If you have questions about that, you can speak to one of us or to your RA. In Spangler, there are double suites available, so that means there's a double room and a double room that share a bath together, a double room and a single bath, or a single room that share a bath together, and then a single room and a single room that shares a bath together. There's different layouts for them, but generally the difference between some of them is some have a wall between the bathroom and some don't. And so that's generally a question that you can ask Janie or one of your RAs in Spangler, or one of the Spangler RAs. If you're interested in seeing any of these options, talk to your friends or make an appointment with somebody at our housing desk and we can talk to you. To continue, we do have 4-bedroom, 2-bath apartments, so those are in Spangler. Those options are limited. There's not many of them, and so it's really important that you understand both options in terms of apartment living. In Barron, there are double rooms with a community bath, so very similar to Parsons, just in a different building, and that building is separated by gender. So the 2nd floor is women and the 3rd floor is men. There are no single rooms available in there. And in terms of Burton, we have the same situation. There's 4-bed and 2-bath in those apartments. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us.
Awesome. So the second thing I'm going to actually keep it with Heather Nicole, and she's going to talk with you a little bit more about our housing rates per semester and this lovely grid we have here, which gives you a good idea of the per semester breakdown for housing.
Yeah, so this is a great grid. The grid that's available on some of the other stuff that we put out was not updated until now, so this is the first time you're seeing it. We just got these rates a few days ago. So this goes through, and if you, and I don't think I have a clicker, but if you look on one side, you can see the per semester rate, and then on the top you can see the per semester rate for meal plans. So what you can do then is intersect the two of your choices and you'll come out with how much you're going to pay per semester for room and meal plan. If it says NA, that means you don't qualify for that. So as always, if you have a meal plan, if you don't have a kitchen, you have to have a meal plan. And if you do have a kitchen, you don't have to have a meal plan. So, and there's some more nuances. We'll talk about that in a few.
So this is a really great moment to pause our presentation if you need to have a closer look at this and look at your top 3 options and what those would cost you for next semester. Awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about apartments, which is kind of my area. Apartment eligible residents can be one of 3 things: 21 years old, have 60 SMU, St. Martin's credits, or have lived in SMU residence halls for 4 or more semesters. So you don't need to hit all 3 of these requirements, you just need to meet one of them. If you're a transfer student and you don't meet these requirements but feel like you might, so let's say you're a transfer sophomore but you really are in your junior year of college and you feel like you do meet it but not quite, go ahead and come by the Residence Life office and I can talk to you kind of about what your housing options look like and make sure that we're getting you to the right housing option that you do qualify for. The other thing I'd like to note is that Burton doubles are available on a limited basis, and that is a reduced rate. So if you rewind this video a bit, go back to our grid, you can see what that Burton double rate is and see if that's something you're interested in. What that looks like is you would be living in a room and you'd share that with another roommate, and then you have your apartment mates and suite mates. So I've had Burton double apartments which have 8 folks in it, and I have them with 6, 7, 5. So there's some options there if you're looking to live with a lot of friends that haven't done the past pretty successfully. So again, we'd be happy to talk to you more about that option.
Awesome. So like we were talking about meal plan options, apartment residents are not required to have a meal plan. Apartment eligible residents, so that means what Janie was just talking about. If you're eligible for an apartment but you choose not to be in an apartment, you then are required to have an apartment or a commuter meal plan. So we allow you in your junior year when you're 21 to have a reduced meal plan if you like. This is a really good option for students that maybe have an all-day internship off campus, so you're working at the Capitol or something like that, or you work a lot. You might opt in to take a lower meal plan because you might be leaving off or eating off campus a lot more. But I wouldn't recommend it for students that maybe are going to be here all the time. All other residents are required to have a bronze meal plan minimum. If you do request a meal plan that you do not qualify for, you would then be opted into whatever meal plan would be the lowest one. So if you say that you want no meal plan but you're not eligible for no meal plan, we would put you into a commuter plan or a bronze plan. Once you submit your application, and many of you already have, so good job, then you have to fill out a meal plan change request form. So what you do is go back to that website that we were just navigating you with, and in that forms tab there is one that says meal plan change request, and you are able to select fall 2019, and you have until add drop for fall semester, and I'm trying to remember what day that is, but it's usually around 10 days after the semester starts. So you have now until all summer to request a meal plan change. But again, if you don't qualify for that, then you would get a decline letter. But so it's important that you kind of understand what the options are. And if you go to our website, you under availability requirements and all their meal plans, you'll get to see all the policies that relate to housing requirements and also meal plan requirements. So if you're confused about that at all, talk to one of us or investigate that on the website.
Awesome. So there's a few things we wanted to highlight about the housing application. The application does include our contracts, so I encourage you to read that, make sure you know what you're signing. But we just want to highlight a few different things that students might encounter or are unique to our housing contract. So the first thing is our residency requirement. St. Martin's University does have a 2-year, count them, 2 years, live-on requirement. So it does not take credits into consideration. So even if you have 60 earned credits, if you've not lived on campus for 2 years, you have not met that residency requirement. So please make sure that you are applying under that requirement. So if you're a rising sophomore, even if you have 90 credits, you still need or sorry, if you're a rising first year student going to be a sophomore, still have, if you have 90 credits, that's great, but you still do fall under that residency requirement. Also, it's a year-long commitment. So unless you are staying abroad or graduating, it is a year-long commitment to live on campus. If you stay on campus the fall semester and then just decide to move off, you will lose that $200 damage deposit that you put down when you first applied to SMU. Again, our exceptions are like study abroad, graduations, if you get married during that time. If you have a special circumstance or there's something interesting about your program that requires you to take a gap semester, please talk to your assistant director about that so we can help navigate that process for you. The other thing we want to note is that you must have a recorded damage deposit on file. If you are currently living on campus, you have a recorded damage deposit on file, so you do not need to pay that again. Yeah, so it's super convenient. We just carry it over until you decide to no longer live on campus. If you are new to this process and you have not lived on campus before, you are required to have a $200 damage deposit on file.
Our cancellation. So, and this goes back to what I was talking about before about really understanding what our policies are. And so it's really important as somebody who is renting a space on campus, just like you would off campus, that you understand what the terms of the contract are. And so one thing for cancellation fee is students who withdraw from housing. So let's say you sign up and then you decide that maybe you don't want to do that, or you sign up because you were looking for something off campus, but this was your backup plan. That's okay. What we want you to do is just understand that there might be fees or loss of deposit that that occurs. So students who withdraw from housing after the first 10 days of the semester are responsible for the prorate cost of housing and a $300 cancellation fee. What that means is we would prorate you for the number of days that you've been on campus, and then you would get a cancellation fee of $300. In all of these cases, you would also lose your damage deposit. After the 30-day mark, so 30 days after this fall semester starts, you would not be eligible for a refund or to be prorated. And so that's really important. So you really want to spend some time right now making a decision on what you want to do. Talk to your parents, talk to financial aid, and see what's feasible for you, because it's in your best interest to really think ahead financially and also for your own living situation. It is important, as always, to follow our housing and university policies. You know, if you haven't taken a lot of time to read over our policy handbook, it's really important. Our 2017-2018 one is up right now, and early in the fall or late in the summer, you'll be getting our 2018-2019 with any added changes if they make any. So you are responsible for all policies. Just a reminder, we're an alcohol and drug-free campus, even if you are over 21, and that includes any paraphernalia. And so don't bring your extra stuff around here. We don't want it on campus, and not even in your car, so remember that. And for anybody who's new to campus and haven't done that, it's really important for you to read those policies. Service animals and emotional support animals are allowed if you go through the channels and register them with Jeff Brown, and then register them with us, obviously. So it's really important that you do that. We don't allow any other animals on campus except for fish under a 10-gallon tank. So that's a really important thing to remember as well.
And Jeff Brown can be found in the Center for Learning, Writing, and Advising on the garden level of the library. He does disability support services work. Awesome. So what we want to do next is talk about changes we're making to the housing selection process. So if you've gone through the process before, this is where the slide where you're going to want to tune in because we have made some changes. So the first thing is that applications that are received after March 20th will not be assigned a priority number. This means you cannot participate in selection during what your assigned time would be. You would need to wait till the very end of selection after everyone else with a priority number has gone. At this point, we have over 130 applications. So at this point, if you didn't do your contract on time, you'd be 131st in line. So it's really important, again, that you get your contract on time, March 20th. The other thing is that, and Heather Nicole mentioned this earlier, is that married singles and persons private rooms are not available to retain or select through the standard housing selection process this year. We have a very big class size. We've had 2 very big class sizes back to back, which we're really excited about, but just for occupancy management reasons and just so that way we can make sure everyone who's required to live on campus has a home, we do need to eliminate those options. They may be made available after the selection process, and we'll have a waitlist format available for students at selection. However, when you're making your selections and your choices, you should anticipate that married singles and persons private rooms will not be available. As residents, one of the other changes we're making is that you have the ability to pull in your full room, suite, or apartment regardless of the room type. So if you want a Spangler apartment, Burton apartment, Spangler double room, Spangler single double, Baron double, whatever you'd like, you can pull in all of your apartment and suite mates together. And that's a really great and convenient option because then you just need to go at the time with the person who has the highest priority number. The other thing we'd like to note is early selection is an option. So we want to prioritize a few different folks for early selection, and that's going to be on March 28th from 1 to 5 p.m. And we'll talk a little more about that later. So for early selection, we have added Baron doubles this year. So if you want to commit to a Baron double early, that's fantastic. You can go through early selection and avoid the whole housing selection process on the 29th. Burton doubles will continue to be one of the options we make available for early selection. And international students with roommates. So this is a change we're making a little bit. So if you would like to live with an international student as a roommate, that's great, and you can still go through early selection. But we are not allowing these international students as suite mates or apartment mates to go through early in selection. So again, early selection is only for those who wish to live with an international student roommate. And the reason we made this change is because the international partners that we work with often have requirements for students to have roommates for international students as opposed to suite mates or apartment mates. So we want to make sure that we are following the policy of that program and making sure our international students have a good experience on campus with that. And the last thing that we've always included in early selection, we'll continue to do, is if you have a specific ADA accommodation, you'll be able to go through early selection as the standard, and that's similar to what we've done in the past.
And one thing to also highlight is this doesn't include international students that are going through housing process. A lot of students will be. This includes students that we anticipate that are coming in the fall. So that's kind of what we're talking about,
Yes.
holding those spaces for them. So if you sign up for this option and you want a room with an international student, those are for folks that you don't know that are coming in. Folks from our Raitagu program or IREX or some other really great programs that we have. And we really encourage you to think about doing that. It's a really great opportunity to get to know someone. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. So here's the room selection process. It's very important to pay attention to this. Oftentimes students sign a contract and put down all their information. And I've already got a lot of questions already about changing their roommates option on their form and things like that. But really, this is very different than when you first sign up for housing because we don't pick your room for you. We don't pick your roommate for you. You can keep in mind the thing that you want or the roommate that you would want, but nothing matters until we have actual live housing selection process. And so that's why getting a priority number and being there on the 29th to select your room live is really important and exactly what you need to do in order to get a room.
So we're going to talk about dates and location. So housing selection is going to be on Thursday, March 29th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. We're hosting it in the Spangler Conference Room this year. So this is another change. It's not in the Baron Great Room this year. It's going to be in Spangler Conference Room. You will need to bring with you the following things. Your St. Martin's University ID card. You need to have your contract completed ahead of time. Again, see that March 20th deadline. You also need to have room preferences and 3 alternate options. So something we've been noticing in the contracts we've been getting is folks aren't picking 3 options. What they're picking is the same option for their first and second choice and a different option for their third choice. That is not 3 options. We know the difference. That is 2 options. So you want to make sure that you have 3 true options. So if you want a Parsons single, a Spangler single, and a Spangler single, those are 3 great options. If you want a Spangler double, a Spangler double single, and then a Baron double, 3 great options. But saying Parsons single, Parsons single 3 times is not 3 options. So again, really make sure you're thinking of 3 things that would you would want to live in and you'd be happy with. A really great thing to think about is what's important to you. Maybe privacy is important, so that's why you're going with the single. Maybe it's important for you that you have a roommate you get along with, which is why you prefer a double. Or maybe you like the idea of living in a community that's a bit more quiet and that you don't have to be responsible for your own bathroom cleaning that you would be in a suite. So maybe that's why a bare double would be important to you. So really think about what is going to make your housing experience and what's the most important thing for your housing assignment process. And I think that makes it helpful to think of those 3 different options. The last thing that you need to have is you either need to have your roommates, if any, or you need to have a proxy form of theirs. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what a proxy form is and how you use it in the next few slides. Again, we're going to emphasize this. All applicants must be present or have a proxy for selection. If you don't or forget to do that, you will get whatever space is left over. We will not take texts that say this person can select for me. We will not take phone calls from wherever location you have to be in. You need to be responsible to either show up to housing selection or to have someone proxy for you, and you need to plan that in advance. So those are things we will not be allowing this year. If that's the case you're in, you're going to be put at the very back of the line, and you're going to select everyone after everyone else.
Awesome. So here's your priority number. So those of you who have a lot of questions, the first question we get oftentimes is, if I sign my contract very first, am I first in line? And the answer is no. What we really want to do is we preference students that have more credits, more transfer credits, and have been in the halls the longest. So naturally, seniors or graduate students will be able to select first, which is helpful because those folks are also apartment eligible. So this is how you determine your priority number. You're going to look at earned SMU credits. So that includes any credits that you've earned, not credits that you're currently earning. It's credits that you've earned, plus half your transfer credits. And then plus semesters in the hall times 4. So if you are a first term student and you've lived in the halls for 2 semesters, you might have 29 transfer credits. You divide that then by 2, and then you add it to how many credits you have. Maybe you took 18 last semester. And by our math, you would have a priority number. That priority number is posted outside of both the Spangler and the Parsons desks on the 23rd. So that's a really important thing to think about. Or did we put it on the 20th? We did. Anyway, yes, the 20th. We're going to get it out as fast as we possibly can. That number is pulled directly from our records from the registrar's office. So if you look at it and it's sorted out by your student ID number, if you look at it and you're like, well, that's not quite right, then you can talk to us ahead of time, not on the day of room selection, please. And we can sort of investigate that for you and make sure that your credits are coming through correctly and through the registrar's office. They should be. But sometimes students that have transfer credits hadn't checked to see if they'd all transferred through, and this is sometimes how they find out. So that's something to really think about. Late applications, as we've been saying, do not receive a priority number and will pick at the 7 to 8 p.m. time slot after all the priority numbers are called. So late applicants cannot be pulled up by a friend. So what Janie was talking about before, being able to pull in your whole room. If there's 4 of you that want to live together and one of you doesn't have a priority number because you turned in your application late, you will not be able to all live together. So this is why it's really important that you not only look out for yourself and getting your priority number and filling out that contract on time, but also all your friends, and make sure you've just crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's in that situation. And you wouldn't be able to participate in early selection, obviously. So that's something to think about.
Room retention. So upper students may retain their current room through the housing selection process. This is something that we have done in past years, and we're going to continue to do that program. What's new this year is retention being unavailable for the following room types: Parsons first year rooms, and that has always been the case, but Parsons private rooms and Barron's single rooms are also not available for room retention. You would qualify for room retention if you're a student who's living in an upper year area already and would like to retain the same room that you did the previous year. One thing to know about retention is that does not mean you can stay throughout the summer. So unless you sign a 12-month contract and would like to pay for housing from May to August, your contract would still run from August to May. So basically what it means with room retention, the big benefit is that you can select your housing in advance, and that you will not need to go through the room selection process. And you would receive a confirmation about your room retention if it's approved by March 22nd. Again, if you apply after that March 20th deadline, you would not be eligible for room retention.
All right, early selection. So this is an opportunity to come to the desk and pick your room the day before housing selection comes, if you meet the following criteria. And we've talked about this a little bit already. If you have questions about early selection, please come and talk to us. So it's going to be in the Spangler office. We're in the Spangler office right now, so that's why I'm pointing, with Lindsay Evans, who's our housing operations manager, Janie or myself. Early selection includes residents interested in Barron doubles, Burton doubles, international student roommate, again, not a suite mate or an apartment mate, or students with documented disabilities that are registered with Jeff Brown and Disability Support Services. If you have any questions about this or just any confusion at all, please come and talk to us.
So who will get to register our group first? This is a really great question. We get this every year. So all residents can register in groups using the highest priority number. So if you have a priority number of, let's say, 89 and your friend has a priority number of 102, you would go with the person whose priority number is 102, and everyone can again register at that same time. That includes suite mates, roommates, apartment mates. A resident can register a group member who is not present by getting a proxy form. Proxy forms are going to be available at at the desk, either in Spangler or in Parsons, both desks, starting March 19th. And what a proxy form is simply is a small contract which says that I give permission to this other student to pick my room for me. You would both include your ID numbers and a signature, and that's how you get someone to proxy for you. It's a quite easy process. When you're thinking about your group, it's important to make sure that every member of your group is eligible for the apartment. Something we run into every year is people wanting to live in Spangler apartments or Burton apartments as sophomore students. If you are a sophomore, you are not eligible for an apartment. It's only folks who are eligible for that room type. So if your group is a senior, 2 juniors, and a sophomore, and you'd like to live in an apartment, unfortunately that sophomore would not be able to do so. So you need to make sure again that everyone who is in your room type is eligible for that option. And please again make sure you're planning that in advance.
Awesome. So we talked about this a little bit, but how can I select my room if I'm not there? So this is important for you to pick a friend that you trust. That would be actually picking your room for you. And so this is what we're talking about as a proxy. And you can a person can proxy for any number of people. We've seen students go through and proxy for 3, 4, 5 different people. You can proxy for your whole room, which would be fine as long as you have a proxy form available that's properly filled out. You must complete your contract in advance, obviously, like we said, by the 20th. And your friend must have your completed proxy form, your SMU ID number, which is on the proxy form, and your room preferences. And I don't know if you want to tell the horror story of
Oh yeah. Room. So we had a couple years ago, we had a student who came in and had picked a room for the students. They thought they'd done a great job. They were like, oh, okay, this is exactly what they want. Turns out they had picked the wrong building. So we actually didn't find that out until much later. So you really want to make sure you're clear with your proxy and give your proxy person options, please. Do not be that person who says, I only want a person single single, or I want a person single single, either that's on the first floor, second floor, third floor, and those are my 3 options. Please don't do that to them. It puts them in a very tricky position. Give them 3 true options. And also it's really a good idea to be available during your selection time, either by text or phone, so you can walk the person through that. We're not going to rush people through the process, but we do want folks to be prepared. So it does take about, I'd say, a minute to select your room, like a true minute. So that's the window you have. And you'll go through, you'll look at the floor plan and do that. So please make sure your proxy is well informed, so that way they are picking the best option for you available at the time. For the waitlist, so this is something we want to make sure folks know are available. So waitlists are available at selection for all room types. To participate, you need to complete the waitlist form at room selection. We're going to have laptops up and available where you can do that. You'll need to provide your SMU ID number, your 2018-2019 room assignment that you picked at the time, and updated contact information. We contact students primarily through email and through phone, so if you sign up for a wait list, please be vigilant. Throughout the summer, April, May, June, July, sometimes even August, as we're going through the wait list. It's really important that you check your SMU email. If you know you're not going to check your SMU email at all during the summer, please provide an email you know that you will be checking for specifically this form. So we're going to contact students initially through mid-April and mid-May regarding waitlist requests. At that time, we usually get some melt from students who decide not to on campus. So that's when we do the first round. After that, we place our transfer students and new students who get their applications in on time. And then after that, and I'm sorry, those are incoming transfer students, incoming international students who get their applications on time. And then after that, we see what space is available and do another round of waitlists. Then in August, after we have a little bit more melt, we do another round of waitlists. So there's 3 different windows we do from that. A good rule of thumb, though, is if you haven't heard back from your waitlist request by July, chances are that we don't unfortunately have that option available. But again, if you're interested in the wait list, that's something you can do, and that's again where you have that opportunity to sign up for that Barron single wait list as well as that Parsons private wait list. With those spaces, just know they're going to be very, very limited. So it's important that you just have that in your mind as you're going and signing up.
Exactly. So disability accommodations, we've talked about this. We do really want you, if you have some concerns about this, to contact Jeff Brown. If you have already registered in an accommodation with Disability Support Services, that disability accommodation will carry over to the next year. But if you have a new concern or something that's going on, or you have a question about whether or not you qualify for a room accommodation, or you have a disability that would require you to have a room accommodation, please go and talk to Jeff Brown before housing selection, or talk to one of us, and we can kind of help you navigate that process. So that's really important to do ahead of time.
Awesome. So what if you're leaving St. Martin's University or housing? So If you're leaving housing, it's really important that you confirm that you're eligible. Again, we do have that 2-year live-on requirement. And so rising sophomores are not going to be eligible unless they meet some exemption criteria. And that exemption criteria is available in our housing exemption request. I'm going to go ahead and click that link and hopefully that will pop up. It looks like it is popping up. So the housing exemption request kind of goes through step by step and lists out the different things and areas you could qualify in to do an exemption. It's a pretty simple form. You submit, you click what box you are eligible for, and then you go through and you submit that. That is the exemption form, and again, that's specific to rising sophomores. So link is available in that form section that I navigated y'all to earlier, but just so you know, this is what the housing exemption looks like. If you decide that you're going to commute from home with a parent, there is an option on here to upload a letter, and you will need that letter to live with your parent. So just to note that that is available on this as well. The other thing, if you're a rising junior and senior and you are not returning to campus or you're graduating, if you're graduating, fantastic. We're very excited to hear that. Congratulations. And what you'll need to do, and you need to do this to be eligible for your damage deposit refund, is to submit your not returning form. It's a good thing in mind, if you already know you're not going to live on campus, make sure you get that in by the same deadline of March 20th, so that way we know that's the case. The not returning form, again, is a very simple form. It's also available in that portion of our website, which has all of our forms, but I'm going to go ahead and click on the link and show you that here as well. And again, that not returning form just asks some basic information here about your semesters and residence, basic demographic information, and then it asks you to provide some feedback on your experience. You'll click if you're not returning to St. Martin's or not returning to housing only, or maybe it's both. And if you're not returning to St. Martin's, it would be both. So you want to make sure you go ahead and fill out this section. These comments do not reflect or affect your not returning form. It's just good feedback for us to know because we want to know a little bit about what your experience has been like in the residence halls. Great. So if you're leaving SMU or housing, make sure you complete the not returning form if you're a rising junior and senior. If you are a rising sophomore, make sure you complete that housing exemption request form as well as the not returning form.
It's really important because I have every year students that are juniors and seniors that want to live off campus that fill out an exemption form. You don't have to fill out an exemption form. Those are only for folks that that are still falling under the 2-year live-on requirement.
Cool. And so we're at the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, you can always stop by the office. Heather Nicole's over in Parsons. I'm over here in Spangler. You're also welcome to send questions to housing@stmartin.edu and we will answer any questions you have. My general rule of thumb, if you're asking more than like 3 or 4 questions, it's a great idea to give us a call on our landline if you're not able to come in the office. And you can give us a call 360-412-6163, and one of our awesome office assistants will be able to walk you through any questions that you have. They're really knowledgeable, so if you have questions, please feel free to ask us. Our goal here, as you can see with this very informative presentation, is to make sure that you're well informed about the processes so that's easy and smooth. And a good thing to know about this presentation is we go over kind of all eventualities, but the majority of folks, I'd say 95% of students, complete their application, get their priority number, show up on time and pick their room, which is the 4-step she needed to do. No problem at all. That's the majority of folks. But we want to make sure we're covering every eventuality just in case.
Yep. So, and one more thing to mention that we didn't mention before, when you come into, if you've never been through housing selection process, when you come into Spangler, you are going to see a live representation of what is available. So when you walk into the lounge, you're going to understand what is available to you. And then when you go into the conference room, you would be selecting that. So you won't think of, that you have one option that's not available anymore. So it's really, really important that you understand that we're going to do everything in our possibility within our reach to make sure that you have a good experience during that process. So again, if you have any questions, to let us know. And also really ask your RAs because they can help you navigate this process as well.
Awesome. So thank you so much for viewing our presentation. If you got to the end, we're going to give another plug. Make sure your friends also view this presentation. It has a lot of really great information in it, as you saw, that really goes over the process. So feel free to forward this on to your friends, share, like it, tweet it, whatever you want to do. But thank you so much for taking the time to go through this presentation and listen to what we have to say about the housing selection process. And have a great day.